You can say it today, and it would be officially true. Day one of fall camp. Football season's here.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. As always, terms apply. Happy Wednesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, day one of fall camp, football season is officially here. The months of off-season waiting, counting down, shout out Mal, every single day till we get to day 30. That means the boys are strapping it up. They're meeting in the Murphy Center, and they're getting ready to go. They're out on the grass, as Coach Doeren likes to say. This, of course, is the time of year we start learning about what this team truly is through reports of the media, what they see out of practice, who's immediately standing out. All the excitement really hits another level once the guys get out there for fall camp.
In the words of Paula Abdul, let's get physical. It is time, folks. It is time. It is time. I am so excited that, we're back in talking. We're back in terms of talking about ball because Grace and I are tired of talking realignment. We're tired of talking the courts. We're tired of talking preseason lists, whose list, that list, this list. We've got to talk about some more lists coming up, but I promise you that'll be the last time because we now have large, angry men moving other large, angry men against their will. It's that time again. Oh, what a game. A lot of people, I believe they call soccer the beautiful game. No, let me tell you something. A game that could end in a tie could never be the beautiful game.
No chance.
It could never be that, okay? This one here, this is what we are looking at in terms of just one of the most – it's a lot of people say Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year. Camp season is it for me when I played. You know why? It's all ball all the time, and you knew the season was coming when camp hit, okay? You knew the season was coming when camp hit, and I'll tell you, I'm excited to see what's going on.
I can only imagine how the players feel probably last night and this morning, but even as a fan, I'm sitting here and thinking, kind of feels a little bit like Christmas Eve. You've waited so long to get to this point of the offseason. You've waited so long to get them in pads, get them through practice, see who is who. You work out some positional battles. Very excited to hear more on that in the weeks to come as well. But Kenton hit the nail on the head. We're tired of looking at lists. We're tired of breaking down how a sentence is structured based on how the coach said it. Put the ball down because we want to play some football. Hit somebody, score some points, light up the scoreboard. We have to talk about actual football. Simply now, we're less than a month away. But Kenton, one of the top questions on my mind as we enter fall camp here, the resounding sentiment we heard through last year's fall camp is that the defense felt very far ahead of the offense, and that proved to be true once the season began. Coming into this fall camp, what sort of reports in terms of offense and defense are you expecting to hear?
I would honestly be shocked by anything other than the offense is light years ahead, or that, the defense is getting theirs here and there, but the offense has a notable advantage. I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe in this secondary. I think that they could be a very special group. I think the defensive line, they have some really special talent on the top end. I'm interested to see how the depth pieces develop because this is one of the first times that we can say all of the depth pieces, except for some of the transfers, are returners. I mean, Red Hibbler, Noah Potter, whoever is going to be the depth piece between those two, maybe both of them, because we'll see a front line that looks like Van, Price, and Cleveland. But I'm very interested to see how those two have developed their game in particular because they could be vital in making this thing happen. But that linebacking core, that's going to be one where you're kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if the offense can find some early success there. But I'd love to see what the situation is. But I think the most likely reports that we'll get a lot is that the offense is humming and moving and grooving. Because again, they're at every level. I struggle to find a weakness within this offense.
You'll never hear me disappointed to hear that the defense looks as stout as ever. But this year, I hope the first thing that we hear is that the offense looks electric, because that will take the hype meter and bump it up probably 50 different notches. Now, it's interesting this time of year to start hearing about the players that begin to separate themselves. And I remember last year, all the reports that slowly started to leak out. This kid called Kevin Concepcion, but goes by KC, who's just a freshman, is wowing a lot of people at fall camp. Now, hearing that, you're like, okay, great. One of our freshmen seems ahead of schedule, and he's progressing all right through fall camp. That's a great sign. Little did we know that we had a freshman All-American on our hands, and one of the most valuable weapons of the entire offense. You started to hear those reports early in August. So moving into that same time frame here, I'm interested to see if we hear about the Jonathan Paylors and the Terrell Andersons and the Keenan Jacksons. Who could be a freshman that steps up kind of in a similar manner, or will it be primarily led by upperclassmen? Based on the transfer portal and some of the developmental pieces, it could be more upperclassmen. Could Jakari Collins become a big-time leader in that wide receiver room? Is KC going to be the alpha wolf in the wide receiver room? There's so many exciting questions to get into as fall camp begins. But then, yes, you also can't forget about the defense. If the defense is ahead of the offense, so be it. That's not a bad thing to hear based on some of the pieces we lost coming into this season. There is no replacing a Peyton Wilson. So who in the linebacking core is going to step up to shoulder some of that load? Will it be Caden Fordham? Will it be Devon Betty? Those questions remain to be answered.
Yeah, and the most interesting thing that I'm seeing in terms of day one of camp is, people ask, how important is it? How important is it not? This is a tone-setting day, right? This is the tone-setting day for you to say, hey, this is who I am. This is who I'm ready to be this season. And the only thing about it, you have to sustain it, right? So it's important, but it's like the first big punch in a boxing match. It's not the only one unless you've got, knockout power, unless you're a guy who every time you touch the ball, you're going in the end zone, or every time you line up to take a rep, you're getting a sack or something like that. You need to continue. You need to sustain it. And even if you are that guy, that promise will get you opportunities that other guys that are low in the depth chart may not. But the consistency of building on, hey, you've got a good foundation with day one, and then you built on it. You built on it. You built on it. That's what you need to see in terms of making a really good fall camp happen for you.
We'll get into some of Kenton's camp stories here later on in the show, but one more question to close out this block. Kenton, do you find it's more important on the opening days of fall camp for the captains of the team to be the main voices, or the coaches be the ones that set the overall tone, or both, I guess?
I would say the captains, because this is the first time that you get to strap them up and lace them. Right. This is the first time you get to strap them on again. This is the first time you get to strap on the shoulder pads, your helmet, all that. This is the first time in quite some time, right? So I say that that's important because at the end of the day, if you do not do that, if you do not show up in a way where your guys know, like, hey, we're good because we have this player X, Y, and Z showing up and leading, you're going to have a problem. If the coaches have to set the tone with their voice, that means that your players are lacking juice. If your players are lacking juice, that's tough. That's tough. I was always taught I'd rather have players that I have to ring in and rile up. And so my belief was always I got to be a player that coaches need to say, calm down, you're good, relax. And so to me, the players need to lead. A player-led team has the potential to win a championship. A team that the coaches have to lead on the field, I'm sorry to tell you, Coach Doeren is done playing football. Joker Phillips is done playing football. Coach Anai is done playing football. Coach Tuesday, he's done. He may look like he can get out there and hit a kick step or two.
I bet he could.
Coach Wiley, Coach Gibson, all these coaches, they're done. They are all out of eligibility. It's all eaten up. It's incumbent upon these guys to make it happen and be those leaders and talk with their pads, because it's day one. You get to do the talking with your pads at that point. There's no more jawing back and forth. Oh, we're going to kick your and we're going to to the offense or defense or whatever. No. We got them all now. It's time to see what's what and who's who.
Day one of fall camp here on Wednesday. Cannot wait to hear some of the early reports coming out of camp in Raleigh. Coming up next, we're getting into a whole lot of nothing or a whole lot of something after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. This, of course, makes getting tickets faster and easier than ever before. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. This means with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes all the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Using these last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it. Toggling their all-in pricing feature on the app will show your total up front so you receive zero surprises at checkout. And as always, you can get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy so you know exactly what to expect upon arrival. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Our second sponsor of the day is Factor Meals. Warmer, sunnier days are calling, and you can fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Crush your wellness goals all summer long with dietitian approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Making your day delicious from breakfast to dessert, you stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. And perhaps the most important part of all, you keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in just 2 minutes with no shopping, no prepping, no cooking, and no cleaning up. So head on over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off of your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com. Middle portion of our Wednesday show. Now time for a whole lot of nothing or a whole lot of something. 3 topics. We'll tell you exactly where we stand on them. First one here. Cal fans all of a sudden have a lot to say about the ACC. Shout out to our guy Taylor Sauls on Twitter. He turned us on to this tweet from a man named Lawrence Ross. And this is what Lawrence had to say. He says, quote, "I've watched every ACC team and not one, including Florida State, scares me as a Cal fan. It feels like a league of Arizona and Arizona States," unquote. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of nothing. With all due respect to Mr. Ross, leave that dope alone. It's hurting your brain. You've never seen those commercials where it says, "This is your brain on drug." Listen, the craziest part about this whole analogy is not the belief that Cal is going to be these big bad monsters in the ACC, because travel be damned, right? The most travel any college football team has ever had in one season. Forget that. We're not going to pay attention to that at all. Here's what I do want to pay attention to for a second, though. A bunch of Arizona States. Grayson, just out of curiosity, do you think they have a winning record in their last 5 games against either of these teams?
I'd say maybe Arizona State, but probably not.
No.
Neither?
They are 1-4 against Cal in their last 5, 2-3 against Arizona State in their last 5.
Woo! PU.
3-7 in their last 10 against last 10 against Arizona. 6-4 in their last 10 against Arizona State.
Smell like mid in here.
My brother in Christ. Aaron Rodgers ain't walking through that door. He's too busy in Egypt enjoying some ayahuasca. Okay? Marshawn Lynch ain't walking through that door. The man is enjoying retirement, having a good old time with it. Deshaun Jackson ain't walking through that door. He is crip walking on stage to Not Like Us with Kendrick Lamar. I'm sorry to tell you, Justin Forsett is not coming. Keenan Allen, you stole a North Carolinian from us. He's not coming. None of those guys are walking through the door. So with that in mind, hey, every fan base has a little bit of delusional love here and there, and you know they get up in arms, and more power to them. More power to them.
It's been very interesting to watch how the fans of Cal, Stanford, and SMU are slowly kind of learning about what the ACC is. I think it was another Cal fan a couple weeks ago said they were blown away by the quality of ACC Network, and the rest of us who've been dealing with ACC Network, we can't help but feel like, well, then what in the world were you guys doing out there on the West Coast? But anyway, tweets like this one, and I know this comes from one fan who's a fan of Cal nonetheless, but like it kind of makes you think a little bit, is this how the rest of the country views the ACC? Probably not, but you can't help but wonder, does the rest of the country view us as a conference of Arizonas and Arizona States? I mean, maybe it's a good thing because that means they'll severely underestimate what's actually going on, but kind of just a weird thing because it's like, where are you getting this from? Kenton just read you the stats that Cal is not even winning against the two teams that he's accusing the whole conference of emulating. So very weird tweet, very weird energy. Welcome to the ACC, I guess. I have bookmarked your tweet, Mr. Lawrence Ross. I'll see you in mid-October with a lot to say about it, I would presume. It's a whole lot of nothing. Very weird energy. I would just be happier here. You were very nearly conference-less about a year ago, and we saved you. We threw you a bone. Actually, NC State was the school to do it. So I know he didn't target NC State in this tweet, but it feels a little bit targeted. Don't compare us with Arizona State. Come on, dog.
I'm going to say this. While we are getting on Cal, I think that trip out to Berkeley is a potential trap game. I think it's definitely a potential trap game because, again, you know, Jay Knott is definitely an even leaving guy. He's an ankle breaker and an angle breaker. He's a special guy in that defense. They're tough. They're hard-nosed. They do not play around in terms of limiting other teams' production. So we laugh at this, and we are laughing and pointing at you, Kyle, because of this. But we still do give you your respect as you are a legitimate team.
Laughing but not naive. That's how we're going to handle that tweet.
Exactly. Second
one here. Speaking of even and leaving, Coach Thunder posted some speed metrics for linebacker Shawn Brown and pointed out that he ran a 4.43 40. Has there ever been another NC State linebacker to run a 4.4? Was it Peyton Wilson last year? Yes. Shawn Brown ran the same 40 time as 11. If that doesn't fire you up, I don't know what else will. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of something. We knew Shawn Brown could move laterally. We knew that he was a very quick guy and he had that cat-like quickness to defeat blocks. But to know that he also has this type of straight line speed is like, whoo, wait, what? Really? So I'm excited to see how he applies it on the field because, again, I'm not saying you can replace Peyton 1-for-1. But if you were to tell me, hey, you're going to have to use Shawn Brown to do it, I'd say, I'll take that bet. I'll take those odds. You take that bet? I'll take that bet.
Let me be clear. Shawn Brown is not Peyton Wilson. And no matter how bad we want him to be, he will not be Peyton Wilson. However, if Shawn Brown is bringing this kind of speed to the table, it brings you a little bit of comfort knowing that Peyton won't be here because you're essentially replacing a bullet with another bullet. And if you put that bullet in a straight line toward the running back or whoever else happens to have the ball, maybe the wide receiver in a flat, quarterback in the backfield, yeah, sign me up for that. Give me Shawn Brown with a head of steam heading at the ball carrier because that is going to be appointment television. There's certainly more aspects to playing the linebacking position that he's going to have to adapt to. But again, if you're bringing that type of speed to the table, speed kills. Speed absolutely kills. And last one here, Wolfpack at the Olympics. So far, we've had 2 swimmers medal in the Paris Olympics. Ryan Held earned a gold in a freestyle relay, and Catherine Burkhoff won bronze in the 100-meter backstroke. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of something. This North Carolina State swimming program is so elite. I know for a fact that there are certain swimmers who swam at UNC that took their opportunity to train with the Wolfpack in terms of getting ready for the Olympics and whatnot. Not going to say any names or throw anybody under the bus, but this Wolfpack swimming team is where it's at. And, of course, they're showing out in the Olympics because that's what they do. Whole lot of something.
Big time, a whole lot of something. And I think it's interesting that we thought that the year of the Wolf had temporarily concluded. Nope, we were wrong. Baseball going to Omaha was not the end of it for NC State in 2024. We had the Olympics to rely on, and we're still bringing home not exactly trophies, but medals in this sense back to Raleigh. Shout out Ryan Held. This is actually not his first gold. If I'm not mistaken, Ryan Held also won gold way back in 2016. I think he was on a relay with Michael Phelps nonetheless, but this is Ryan Held's second gold. And Catherine Burkhoff wins bronze. This is huge. I know we've talked about it probably way too much over the course of this summer, but branding. Seeing that NC State has swimmers at the Olympics winning medals, that is a really good thing. And I saw that chart put out on Tuesday of the medal count by conference, and the ACC was murdering everyone else in the competition. I believe at that time, the ACC had like 19. The next closest was like 7. I think it was the Big Ten. So maybe it matters a little bit more in Olympic sports in the ACC. I'm sure adding Cal and Stanford will certainly help that count, but nonetheless, the Wolfpack are getting it done all over the planet, including at the Olympics. It's a whole lot of something. Coming up next, we're going to round out our Wednesday episode discussing some Kentons camp stories. A little bit of a behind-the-scenes look of some of the early days of fall camp after a quick word from our sponsors. Our third sponsor of the day is eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships. But it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, and LED headlights, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. That's because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Last couple of minutes of our Wednesday show. Thought it would be fun to end this show because it's the first day of fall camp with some Kentons camp stories. Getting into some of the early days of fall camp, what it looks like and what it sounds like. A little bit of a behind-the-scenes look from somebody who's lived it. Kenton, what do you got for us?
So I want to tell you all about day one of camp. Not just day one of camp, period. The first day ever of Dave Doeren-led camp at NC State, which happened to be my first ever day of college football camp, period. Okay. And for those of you who don't know, although I was not on the field much due to injury, I was one of those players that I did not know another speed beyond 100 miles an hour. That's just how I did everything. That's just what it was for me because I didn't believe I was talented enough to take something off and still, be with the pack and do all the things I need to do. And so, number one, before practice, fellow freshman defensive tackle Monty Nelson looks at me and he said, "Hey, bro, you ready for the rest of your life?" I said, "What?" He said, "You ready for the first day of the rest of your life, bro?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And, me and them been great friends ever since. And he and I both, we went through the entire practice. And at the end of practice, Dave Doeren did the freshman versus freshman offensive defense or developmental or guys who were expected to be in developmental if you didn't have enough freshmen, but of course we did. And so, me and Monty were tearing them up. We were tearing them up, and we both caught cramps at the exact same time. And here's the crazy part about it. Monty apparently had cramps in the past. I didn't. This is the first time I'd ever caught a cramp in my life playing football. So, I didn't know what was happening to my body at that time. I'm like, oh, my God, what's happened? Why do my calves feel like this? Is my season going to be over? What's wrong? And then I realized that, it's just a cramp. You just got to stretch it out a little bit and keep rolling. But I'll tell you, that intensity on day one, it's palpable. You can feel it. You can feel that energy bursting and bubbling over in terms of guys just wanting to get out there, wanting to go, wanting to run, wanting to hit something. I mean, again, it's not just a day one of camp story. The first ever day of camp with Dave Doeren. And I'll tell you what, Ryan Nielsen was the defensive line coach at the time. And anybody who knows him knows he's 100 miles an hour too, a lot like I was. So that's why we got along at times when we did. And so, yeah, it was one of those things, man. It was one of those things where, I'll never forget it for as long as I live. And Monty is going to be my brother until, both of us are going to be in the arms of the Lord. And even then, there's nobody I'd rather have by my side fighting a holy war than him, because that's my brother from another mother right there.
So those are some of the better moments of your first days at camp. What would you say are the tougher moments of the first couple of days of camp?
In terms of having early success in camp, because that's objectively speaking, any guys who played on that team will tell you that I had success early in camp there. And I will probably say the biggest success came to me when it was just like, you've been doing this all your life. Just go play. Just go play. When you fully have that in mind, and like everybody's like, hey, man, you got to slow down. Like, that's not, you can't sustain that over long periods of time. I didn't listen. I ended up tearing my Achilles. Don't care. Came back the next year. Still went balls to the wall. Didn't tear my Achilles that year. But either way, it was a situation where the early days of camp, to me, it was like, everything you do it at 100 miles an hour, and it stuck out because, I've never been one of those people to pace myself. And so finding that early success and just maintaining a high level of intensity, I always tell people, even if I can't run the fastest, I can run it my fastest longer than anybody else. I can do that longer, harder. I can strain harder than anybody else. That was kind of the prevailing thought for me. And so that's one of my better memories from camp. Worst memory, that first ever camp where I thought like, oh, it's over. We are so over. Best memory being day 2 when I realized, oh, we are so back. I'm good. I'm still alive. Everything's still functioning and all that. And I'll tell you, I'm one of those sickos that actually enjoyed that whole like football from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. thing. And it's not – players who don't enjoy that are not bad people, or they're not like not committed, because it's not normal. But, just doing those things and having that ability to go all out all the time, that's probably my favorite memory of camp.
Day 1 of fall camp for your 2024 NC State football team. Looking forward to all the details that are surely to hit the internet here in the coming weeks, coming days. The pictures, the stories, the updates on who's standing out. It's officially football season, folks. We're on the countdown. I think we're 29 days, 28?
Yeah.
We're now 29 days from kicking this thing off at the end of August. The season is here. You can smell it. The preseason officially starts now. The NC State Wolfpack are getting to work. That'll do it for our first episode of Wednesday here. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments down in the comment box. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And we will see you all a second time later this evening. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.